Right. So, in the last session, we discussed about Java solution architecture intro part, followed by this, even we discussed about what are the key skill sets, responsibilities being a solution architect, a Java solution architect is what something we have discussed in the previous session. In today's session, I am going to discuss about the software architecture part because whenever we are providing solutions for any of the application, irrespective of the technology and the domain, it's always important for us to understand about software architecture because normally being a solution architect, as I already stated, solution architect initially try to define, review, approve the project, right? So whatever the solution for the project and all. So generally solution architects is what something they do because based on the solution architect role, what usually we do is to identify all the functional and majorly non-functional requirements so that solution architects we define, review and approve the project so that it will be move on to the transition phase. Like transition phase, nothing but the development phase, whatever the SDLC process or the phases we see, like analysis, planning, design, implementation, testing, right? So this phase will be moving into this level. In this level, being into a software architect, because this again, there is some sort of confusion which I must clarify because most of the people may have some confusion over this. So which I must clarify. Depends on the size of the organization to organization, architect roles will be differ because in some organizations, if you see the larger scale of organizations and all, you have multiple roles as an architect, right? So you have enterprise architects as separate, who will be focusing more on the enterprise architecture of the project by understanding the goal, vision, strategy, etc. By combining business architecture, systems, applications, data, all that. At the same time, we have solution architect roles because especially solution architects majorly of technical side, right? Java solution architect, we have discussed for a couple of days, since couple of days, like defining the solution, right? So designing, review, approval, right? This is what something which being a solution architect we do. At the same time, even we have software architect roles as well in the organizations. If it's a cloud application, then cloud architect. If it is majorly focusing on the data analysis related stuff and all, data architects. This is how generally the segregation will be. But whereas in some organizations which are limited in terms of the size of the capacity of the team and all everything, so an architect will play multiple roles. They wear multiple hats, right? So this is the comparison which you should understand, so that in order to reduce the confusion among the people while understanding the architecture role, so I'm giving you the clarification to you before. Now, coming back to the point as far as the software architecture. So today I'm going to discuss about the software architecture part, or an architect, I can say. So as I mentioned you sometime back, once the solution architect has given an understanding over the design, right? So review in context to the non-functional requirements by keeping it to in mind. Normally, software architect is the person, an individual, I can say. Software architect is a person who normally try to develop a software architecture which will be a part of the design runway, majorly. So means whatever the software design you are going to develop, which is about to develop by the software developers as part of functional process. So they have to develop a software architecture part of the design runway. But the major objective for any software architect is to enable software engineering delivery. This is where generally you can see it on the screen, right? So by combining all that, so whatever the software engineering delivery I've talked about, whether it can be a use case level or it can be object model like class diagrams, etc., all that stuff. At the same time, we will be focusing on the API component based diagrams, right? So this is all something which are connected more or less, like which are all, these are all the different components which are connected, right? So when you talk about software engineering, so majorly it can be of domain, object, model, class, service components, right? So sequences, deployment, right? So all these diagrams will be. So I've just taken an example of some banking application, right? So that loan management, I can say, like banking online loan management system, right? So this is the diagram which I'm showing you over here. So a software architects are the people who majorly focusing on the objective is to enable a software enterprise delivery, right? So majorly when we talk about an object model class diagram, which is essentially important for us in defining the domain driven design, which ensures the consistency of data structure across user experiences, at the same time APIs, backend data types, etc. At the same time, when we talk about service component diagrams, which majorly break down the application into different bounded context of REST APIs. At the same time, these REST APIs can be implemented as a self-contained microservices architectures when we are implementing, because as far as the styles of architecture is concerned, earlier it was monolithic. Now we are working on microservices. You know that because I could see some people who are working on microservices side. So microservices architecture, where each and every component we create a separate microservices, so that if there is any kind of changes to be made in between, so that we can do the change on the particular one. That's how generally the situation is. Next is sequence diagrams, which majorly demonstrates how each user and as well as the function of implementation by any kind of orchestrated process using multiple service interactions and all. Sequence diagram is what something which normally we do. Next one about the deployment diagram, as we all know, because deployment diagram majorly demonstrates us to uh, whatever the kind of platform for each service component are we using, right? Like whether it can be virtual machines or it can be, now and then we are using some Kubernetes pods or serverless lambdas or high level availabilities, which are required for us to configure across multiple available zones, right? So all these things are comes under the deployment diagram. So there are various diagrams which normally we try to prepare as far as the software engineering itself is concerned. So as far as the software engineering deliverables are concerned, being a software architect as a major objective is that, right? So a software architect is the person who majorly try to develop the software architecture as a part of design runway. And followed by this, the major and as well as primary focus is to define and document software structure and as well as the behavior. This is basically based on the functional and as well as non-functional requirements. Normally, functional and non-functional requirements will be identified by the business analyst team, followed by the solution architect will try to develop a solution for a particular project based on the non-functional requirements and all. In connect to that, even software architects will also define a document for software structure as well as behavior based on the functional and as well as non-functional requirements. So that developers, it will give a clear path for developers to produce the functional software and all everything effectively. At the same time, when it comes to the software architecture part, whereas far as apply itself is concerned, right? So if you want to apply, being a software architect, if you want to apply this uh, implementation as far as the software architecture styles are concerned, whatever the different software architecture styles and as well as the kind of design patterns and all, which majorly used to outline the client and server side software components, right? So wherein we want to implement any kind of user experiences, functional data applications, at the same time building blocks, right? So defining the solution architecture document, right? So this is all something which can be applied by a software architect, especially when we are developing solution architecture. So these are all something which are interconnected. right? So if you see enterprise architecture as a whole, under enterprise architecture, we have lot many things like business, application systems, data, all that. In addition to that, when you talk about solution architecture, give you a high level glimpse over the solution. What is that are we going to develop? In connect to that, whatever the software architecture roles, which majorly focusing on the software engineering delivery, right? So if you are working as a Java solution architect, right? So as far as the solution architect role in Java solution architect, I can say, right? So when we are working on, so which is an integral part of software architecture, or software architect is an integral part of it, which majorly our major focus and objective is to enable software engineering delivery. What am I showing you as part of example for loan origination system, right? So this is all about understanding over the software architecture, which is essentially required. So when we are working as a solution architects in Java, which is something essentially required, this is what something essentially needed. That's it. Okay. Right. So we discuss about connect to software architecture. There were many things to be discussed more on, right? So that I'm going to discuss in tomorrow's session.